on my chip outs, man. I got this, yeah.
And now, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to listen to Reece and Dan on the Ankle Pick Pod.
Ankle pickers. Whoa, a little weird when you break it up in three, but welcome back. We have a pay-per-view this week, so you know we're all extremely jazzed up about it. So we got Country Club Kobe, a little under the weather, Cobes, but we're happy you're here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then we got DanKwagers, Danny, DK, Longhorn was in there at one point, MMA. How you doing, Dan?
Doing well.
Was it a green week last weekend to throw you on the spot?
You know, I actually stayed away last weekend.
You didn't place a single bet?
Didn't place a single bet. I got really bad vibes about the card.
Someone's not an addict.
Ripping off the Band-Aid, I'm sorry we lost our ankle lock streak, but I kind of had a feeling that something fishy was going to go on. And
the only one I was arguing for would have been a draw, so it really wouldn't have been that much better. And we both felt pretty good about that one. And let's just call a spade a spade. He looked like shit. I don't know what was his issue, but that is not the same guy that fought Alex Pereira.
No shot.
So let's talk turkey quick. We're going to do recap off the rip, news and notes over to Country Club Kobe if he can stomach it. We're going to have a couple news announcements for the podcast, and then we're going to run into breakdown for UFC 278. Dan and I, once again, have not totally discussed the ankle lock, so we are going to do that live. We will have a winner for you. That I'm confident. I mean, we don't have the advanced stats in the data department, but I don't recall many back-to-back losses in the ankle lock. I think there was maybe one time back last year, but it's rare. So let's get into the recap quickly. And the first one I do actually want to talk about, we're going to bounce around a little bit, but I had a really hot start to the card. And then after that controversial decision, which I do want to touch base on, I went cold. But I want to start with Damon Blackshear versus Yusuf Zalal. And the reason why I want to start there is because I talk about Yusuf Zalal a lot. Damon Blackshear is the newcomer who you and I thought about as an ankle lock and realized no way. Ends in a majority draw. How did you score that fight?
I actually gave the nod to Yusuf.
Did you? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I thought he had done enough in the third.
Yeah. So I had it 28-28, but I said that if someone was going to win, it should be Yusuf. Here's the thing though. Damon Blackshear, I do believe is talented enough to be in the UFC. I just think that either, I don't know if he trains in a big gym, but I don't know. I can't recall the last time I've seen someone gas out that hard in the third. He was a corpse.
It was a huge red flag going forward.
Fatigue gets us all. So this Josh Quinlan fight was a fight that got bounced from last week to this week against Jason Witt. I did end up laying the KO TKO. I really didn't want to. I did. And it happened. It was set up really nicely. And I think Jason Witt's probably done.
Yeah, I agree. The under was the only thing I toyed with placing here. But like I said,
it could have been a good parlay ad. But honestly, Dan, when it comes to sports handicapping, if you're not totally sold, it's not worth the units. I mean, okay, you skipped out on a winner. Well, you also avoid a ton of losers that way, which add up. So I don't blame you. I sprinkled KO TKO less than a unit, not even a big deal. But that one felt good. So Dan, this is one that I tweeted out and I really want to bring up on the podcast. You and I both said the same thing. Don't add Ode Osborne to your parlay. Don't add him for this reason. Tyson Nam has a ridiculous power right. We said that. He loads up on it and he'll throw it. He'll load up on it and he'll throw it. Ode relies on head movement. The right will be there. Dan,
that was exactly it.
Do you know what was there, Dan? The right.
The right hand. Exactly what you just called out.
So I played Tyson Nam. It was finish only. So it only counted if one of them gets a finish, or else it's voided. And it was plus 330, which is just ridiculous.
got a performance bonus for Tyson Nam there.
Well deserved too. And I saw some rumblings in the MMA community / media that they're calling for Nam to actually move up to 35, which is interesting.
So that was unique because the California State Athletic Commission released the like fight day or day of fight weights. More so than the move-in, or more so than the weigh-in the day before. And he had the biggest, whatever percentage body weight increase from weigh-ins to fight day.
Do you know?
Like 16%. I don't remember exactly what the weigh-in was, but he gained 16% of his weight back.
That's like close to Paulo Costa numbers. I remember Paulo Costa got flagged because he did like 19% or something ridiculous, dangerous.
Second highest percentage weight increase was Dom Cruz.
And Demetrius Johnson was talking this week. I mean, just for those flyweights to make 126 just for a moment it's really unhealthy. I mean, no adult professional athlete should be 126 pounds at any point in time.
I don't know if people really realize how small that is. Like it is. And a lot of these guys are built and they're 5'6", 5'7", 5'8". Like that's small.
Mm-hmm.
But so especially at the stage in the career he's at, I think he's 38 now. He doesn't need to be cutting that much weight. As far as Ode goes, I think it's a great lesson for him. Just tighten up that defense. I mean, he's a talented fighter. He's a top 15 fighter at his best. I truly believe at that flyweight. I just think he needs to tighten up a little bit. I hope that's not a bad take. So this was another one we drilled to perfection, but we don't need to spend a lot of time on it. Gabriel Benitez versus Charlie Ontiveros. We were all over that under 1.5, under 2.5. It was a little expensive, but I mean, look, Charlie Ontiveros, he needs to be out for his own health. He does not belong here. Gabriel Benitez, what is your take on Gabriel Benitez at this stage in his career? I mean, before I cue you up for that, because I'm actually curious on this. He trains out of AKA. He's a notable fighter. He's 34 years old, but he got knocked out by David Onama, which we're getting to David Onama later. He got dominated by Billy Q, beat by Omar Morales, beat by Sadiq Youssef. His only 2 wins in his since 2018, his only 2 wins are Justin James and Charlie Ontiveros.
Yeah, and adding on to that, his biggest win of his really entire UFC career is Clay Collard, who's having not having a lot of success in the PFL. So it's a tough spot for Mobley in his career. I think he kind of continues along this path of win one, lose one, not so much move into the rankings, but I don't think he's at any danger of kind of fighting for his job. I did see it going in.
I kind of think that if we ever get a spot where he's fighting someone above the top 25, because the only people he's beating are Jason Knight, Sam Sicilla at 40 or whatever he was. Obviously, Clay Collard, we agreed, is big, but he's losing to Andre Fili and Zeke Barzola, Billy Q. It's a weird.
Billy Q, not a bad loss at all. I think big things are coming for Billy Q.
Okay, I hope so. I like Billy Q. I just think that like if you want to be in that top 20, top 15, Billy Q needs to be someone that you can handle, even if it's a unanimous decision. It was a one-sided fest, but I was curious of your opinion. So women's dog cash, Nina Nunes, and then she also announced her retirement, which I'm sure was going to be in news and notes. Anything there? I mean, I know Nina wasn't necessarily ringing any bells, but she was probably a fight or two away from a shot.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but
no, it's not worth it.
My take is a weird kind of leapfrog. I think it says a lot, or it's interesting more towards Amanda Nunes than anything else, and just kind of shows what the headspace or what that family is really thinking like in terms of fighting and in terms of family, just where they're at, both in their career and whatnot.
Well, do you think that it's a predecessor to the fact that Amanda might retire, or do you think it's the opposite? What?
I think we're at the tail end of Amanda's career. I don't know. I was thinking not to whatever. I don't know that there's a lot left for her to achieve. It's Kayla Harrison and a rematch with Amanda, or in a rematch with Valentina.
I was just thinking that even from a standpoint of that this Nina Nunes could be the fact that, oh, they're just fully committing to Amanda so that Nina could be back with the kid. And that might have been something that played a factor in the first Juliana Pena. I mean, Amanda had a newborn at home. So, you know, you don't know. But yeah, that is interesting. I mean, she doesn't have much, but a lot of these people, man, they just can't. I mean, it's all they know. You know, I mean, Connor had 150 million in the bank and he still had to step in there because it's all he knew. Here's where my night went south. And I told you, Dan, and I actually ended up placing it for a unit and I was very excited about it. And you said, you know, Martin Bidet was your side. I said Lucas Bresky. Come on. That had to be the worst judging we've seen in a while.
Yeah. I stand by kind of what I said. My reading into the fight was that they were going to look at different weight classes, and they did. It was just you got the speed of the light heavyweight that was paying dividends on Martin Bidet.
Bidet threw no volume. I will move quickly after this. I have no idea how Bidet won that fight.
You know how?
How?
These nuts.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
Fall for that twice in 1 week.
That's horrible. Least funny comment ever. Angela Hill beats Danny's Loopy Godinez. He trashed an Angela Hill. Not only is Angela Hill not retiring, but she's picking up her next fight and also cashed as the women's dog system at plus fucking 380 or some shit. Dan, what do you have to say about that?
Why the fuck she didn't Loopy wrestle? Did she not shoot for one takedown the whole fight? I mean, I do not. Maybe she thought her power was going to carry her, but I was fucking surprised at that game plan or lack of game plan. Almost, it seemed like she had no idea that she was losing the exchanges and didn't want to change it.
Official stats: 1 of 3 on takedowns for Loopy.
Thank you, Country Club. So 1 of 3, Dan. Honestly,
should have been 1 of 3 per round, or she should have shot 3 per round, or 3 in the first minute.
I'm going to get you back for these nuts. I already feel it. I'm already like my intensity level is here. So Danny's ankle lock, Bruno Silva gets guillotine choke submission by GM3. And honestly, everyone's kind of been saying to me, it was a club and sub. Everyone's kind of been saying to me that if Gerald's fighting, you just need to take Gerald by submission and that's it. There's no point in taking anything else. It's Gerald by submission. And he's falling in that Paul Craig type of area, but I mean, he got the job done. Bruno, we talked about a little bit at the head of this thing, but Bruno looked horrible.
Yeah,
and GM3
I've ever seen.
GM3 outside of that Hamzat is always a tough. He always gives you a good fight. He's a tough draw. But wow, this one should have been a win for him. It really should have. And I took to Twitter with my ankle lock parlay of Loopy and Bruno. And I can tell you something, man. Twitter is fucking ruthless. They will let you know. When I lost the Lucas Brzezinski, I posted my ticket before the decision thinking there's no way he gets rawed. He got rawed, got bodied. I go, oh, it's okay. I'm going to post this absolute banger of a parlay, Loopy and Bruno Silva, and everyone's going to be like, oh, this guy's such a sharp. Nope, missed both, got bodied again. So relentless stuff out there. I might need to take a mental health break on that. The third women's underdog, Priscilla Koshea, beats Ariana Lipski. And I'm just going to call a spade, and it's truly the truth. Ariana Lipski is not she was so hyped going in, and she is just not it.
100%. She's not it.
She's just not it.
Technique does not always equate to being a good fighter. And that's really what it was on Saturday for me.
Yeah. And Koshea she looked great, but from what we saw of her, 1 minute and 5 seconds. But it was more that I took away more that Lipski just ain't it, more than I took away as Koshea being a world beater. Dan, we talked about this last week that whatever side you find yourself on, you're either going to be an idiot or a genius. The line was weird. It was Asmad Mirzakhanov minus 145, and either he was going to look the minus 350 or you were going to be an idiot for taking him minus 145 after his performance against Tafan. Well, it was the former. Mirzakhanov dominated Devin Clark from start. I mean, did Devin Clark win a second?
No. Yeah. this is one I regretted not talking about a little bit more with the ankle lock, but yeah, this was a one-sided beatdown.
Yeah, it really was. And Dan, being the fish that he is, laid off Mirzakhanov. I, however, am a minnow because I sprinkled Devin Clark. Okay, this fight, I mean, I don't know how this fight made main card. It ended up being great, but I didn't really, this was not on my radar, but Yasmin Jaraguchi got the win as the only women's favorite. And before you chime in, Dan, Kobe, what are the numbers looking like for our women's dog system? I mean, yeah, this Saturday was extremely profitable.
Yeah, dogs went 3-1 this weekend, but technically Loopy's outside of that science range. She closed too high. So what, up 12.75 units this week, up 57.2 units in 2022.
Is that with 1 unit wagers or 5?
5.
Okay. And I just want to imagine if we did just say, if we had 2 systems, one with every women's dog, one with 350 and under. I'm sure the 350 and under is still more profitable.
I can pull it up. Hang on.
But Angela Hill would have been insane for the overall system this week.
Yeah, but those even out. I think that previous to Angela Hill's win,
I don't think we have
outside of
one.
Favorites over minus 350. I think that they were 10-0 this year. So
all right. Well, while our accountant gets the number, Dan.
I got it. It's
that's quick.
22.2 units positive on the year. If you including the big favorites, there's been like what 11 or 12.
So that includes the Angela Hill from last week.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, either way, it's a profitable system, but it definitely evens out. But if you did just women's dogs last week, you're looking pretty good. So I'm going to skip over the Yasmin Jaraguchi fight unless you want to. Do you want to talk? Do you have anything to add, Dan? Nope.
No, I was impressed by Yasmin.
Fight of the night though, and maybe fight of the year. Nate Landwehr versus David Onama. David Onama had a 10-8 in the first on one judge's scorecard, also on my scorecard. I gave him a 10-8 in the first, and then Landwehr just blew back and won round 2, round 3. Holy shit. This fight was incredible. Incredible.
RIP to James Krause's wallet. He was giving away a $3 million bet tip on David Onama, one of his students that obviously crashed and burned. Not sure if he actually placed it.
May I ask where you found that?
Just through the Twitter sphere. People have been a little bit celebrating that it lost just because James Krause has been causing some waves in this MMA gambling community that I seem to have created around me.
One thing that I will add is I didn't know James Krause had it like that to wager 3K on David Onama.
People are saying it's all made up numbers and made up units, and MMA gambling Twitter is all mad at the James Krause trying to enter the space and charging for picks and being a tipster. It's got a lot more drama than we should go into.
It does feel wrong. He shouldn't be charging for the pick since he's too involved. I won't lie, that does seem a little gray area, but whatever.
I heard.
Yeah.
Twitter's ruthless.
Twitter is ruthless. I don't know who you heard that from. That sounds like a smart guy. Probably a handsome guy as well. Speaking of fade, though, or people who shouldn't be in the MMA gambling sphere, Yanni the Greek. I mean, we will talk about the main event in a second, but 0-5 last week on Tuesday, or this week on Tuesday Night Contender Series.
2 weeks in a row, isn't it?
What?
I think it's 2 weeks in a row.
His golden parlay this week, he's like, this is a golden parlay. If you place the other side at plus 950, you bank it with flying colors. He goes, I want the over 1.5 here. Fight ends in 16 seconds. It's almost, you can't even script it. Dan, if we see a pink slip go to Yanni the Greek, especially because his voice is annoying as shit, we need to apply almost ASAP. I'm in.
And we got the track record to back
right
up.
Right? How did Yanni get the gig? He doesn't have no ankle pick podcast. He doesn't have Yanni the ankle pick Greek podcast. It's craziness.
Yanni the ankle pick Greek.
No, we got to trademark that. Marlon Vera versus Dominic Cruz in a very sad main event for me. I love Marlon Vera, so it's not sad for that reason. It's sad because of how much I love Dom Cruz. I think he put together 3. Did the judges' scorecards get released for this one? Because I think Dom was up on all 4 or at least 3 of them before he got caught.
I haven't
it
seen
ended
them.
the 4th.
I'm sure they're out.
So I had him up.
I can find them.
See if you can find him. I had Dom up 3-0, but that head kick, it was one mistake. Dom faded out and Marlon put it right where it needed to be.
Yeah, and with the way that Dom Cruz fights and his striking defense and that head movement, I'm kind of surprised it hasn't happened earlier in his career. Just kind of whatever, moving into a head kick or guessing wrong. But this was one where I obviously I didn't track anything, but this was one where I made some easy coin. We said it on the podcast. Marlon Vera is a slow starter. Dom Cruz is going to come out there, win the first couple, and then you get even money on what was like a minus 300 going into the night. I hit it at plus 115 on Chito Vera. It seemed like a gift at the time. It's still a gift.
Yeah, no, it really was.
We had Dom up 29-28 on all 3 scorecards.
Okay. Yeah, Dom fought a really good fight until the hands down relying on weird entries caught up with him. And he went to dip to the side and the perfectly placed by Chito Vera. But yeah, Dan, you called it out perfectly, honestly, with just live bet Vera after round 2. He starts off slow. Also, quick little teaser. For those in the TikTok sphere, we are getting a guy on the podcast who bets MMA, and his tip for that Saturday was Chito Vera TKO round 4, 20-1, Chito Vera TKO round 5 at 25-1. He hit it, obviously. Chito Vera KO round 4. So it'll be excited to chop it up with him. But wow, what a fight.
Performance bonus to Chito also.
And where were the fight of the night? Landwehr Onama? Yeah. Before we move on, Dan, Dom Cruz, do you think it's it for him? I mean, I know he wanted to chase the belt one more time. He's 37 years old and he's got a great broadcasting career.
It's tough because he's a guy who it's always really tough to know what Dom's thinking. And he's so, I want to say, like, emotionally mature, or even to a level that's unexpected. I wouldn't be surprised if he thinks that he's got another title run in him, or if he thinks that there's no point in giving up the sport and that he's still the same. But it's tough for me to say that right now. He's got too much going on outside, too much positive going on outside the octagon for me to think that he wants to really make that run and commit to it. And he's never been someone who's been active enough to get it done in a quick turnaround next couple of years of his life. And so I think this is the last time we see Dom Cruz in a really competitive title run kind of setting, but I don't think he's done from the sport. And he's a guy who, I mean, his entire career, ring rust doesn't exist. He could broadcast for the next 2 years and you could throw him at the co-main of another pay-per-view event and I'm buying.
I like that. That's exactly. I still think he has a run in him. I think if he tightens up a little bit, the only thing that concerns me is injury history and the fact that Chito dropped him with the jab. That concerned me a little bit because your chin goes first. And you see it in Frankie Edgar, a guy who didn't get knocked out in fucking 15 years, get dropped, and all of a sudden he started getting dropped all the time. The head kick, I think, takes a lot of people out. But the jab, that was tough to see that drop Dom. And obviously the thing, as much as I love this sport and I love what the sport brings, health always comes first. And Dom's got such a long career where you need your brain. So I hope he does what's best for him. And
he's such a smart guy.
He
is. That's the thing about this conversation is it doesn't matter about a guy like Dom Cruz because he's going to make the right decision for himself and he's going to be so confident about it. And like what we're talking about him, he doesn't care. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That's the kind of guy that Dom Cruz is.
When you talk about MMA minds, it's hard to find a smarter one than Dom Cruz. It really is. Yeah. I mean, when you talk about just MMA minds, I think Dan Hardy's up there. Dom Cruz, they're just such students of the game. They're so obsessed. It becomes an
guys
obsession.
Like Trevor Whitman come to mind.
Trevor Whitman is ridiculous. They're just obsessed. James Krause, honestly, kind of comes to mind. They're just addicted to the game, figuring it out, understanding the physical chess mass that is MMA. So anyways, it was a great main event. props to Marlon Vera. I love the guy too. I just also love Dom Cruz. So, all right, let's kick it over to news and notes, and then we'll break down Contender Series for a couple minutes. But I'll kick it to you first, Cope.
All right. First, we got some PFL excitement. Dan, I'm turning to you here, but Shane Burgos to the PFL.
Huge signing. Oh my gosh, am I excited about that. And that's what the PFL needed. Some new, fresh blood, some exciting names, some guys that aren't past their prime, I want to say. I mean, I know that it's part of this news and notes is, and it's something that we already touched on and set the spread is another PFL star, UFC Bellator former champion, former title contender, Rory McDonald is retiring. But this Burgos is on the completely other end of that. It's really, really cementing in my head. And I think that in a lot of other fans' heads, as PFL might be number 2. Get out of the way, Bellator. And
I would go as far as to say that it is.
Yeah,
I really would. I would say that when I come to as far as news, and I know I might be a little biased just because we work with them, but when it comes to news / tuning in, I find myself more excited for the PFL.
And just the product. I mean, Showtime is it's tough to turn on Bellator for one, but I think that the PFL is just doing some really, really smart stuff. Not to spend too much time on this topic, but you look at golf right now, and there's a whole thing about like the PGA Tour versus the Live Tour and the creative things that the Live is doing to set themselves apart, and the smart cage and the different camera angles, and the PFL is really changing the game. The season structure is unique
with their automated judging and the ref cam. They're definitely trying to.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 things on this quickly, and then we can move on. One, did you guys hear Dana White's comments on the whole thing?
I saw something. Yeah,
he said that they fucked up. He literally came out and open and said, people in the inner circle fucked up. We want Shane Burgos here. We wanted Shane Burgos here. And somebody, they never named who, but a couple people in the inner circle fucked up and let that guy walk. So honestly, I just like seeing competition because, you know, fighter pay is often discussed, and UFC really holds all the cards. And when you have competition like the PFL that's exciting, that draws our entertainment, that steals guys up like Shane Burgos, it's not like Bellator when they're taking a 43-year-old Rampage Jackson. You know what I mean? This is different. This is a real guy who might be making $50K or $75K a fight in the UFC. Now has a look at $1 million, needs to fight 2 fights against talent that's around his level, and he can make $1 million. I don't know, man.
The real question is whether or not he's going to be part of the season structure. I know that everything's changing next season for the PFL. They're really ramping up their pay-per-view series. The PFL Europe starting, the Challenger Series is going to get a ramp up too. Kayla Harrison has already said that she's not signing anywhere else, but that she's not going to compete in the season structure anymore. She's going to be a strictly pay-per-view fighter. You got guys like Clarissa Shields, or girls like Clarissa Shields, who already is opting out or has opted out of the season structure and is just being a pay-per-view fighter. It's interesting.
Think they'll allow elbows?
Definitely in pay-per-view kind of settings. I think that's the rule sets is also a really interesting component about it all. I think that I think the sport is going to change within the next couple of years, and it's only going to be for the better. There's going to be more MMA, higher level with it.
The other thing too, I know we're really getting bogged down and Kobe's going to murder us, but I've heard the UFC is rumbling away from thinking about getting away from pay-per-views because of all the illegal streaming, and because everybody can, you know, just stream these fights. Like PFL's audience is deep for sure, but if the illegal streams are there, I don't know. It'll be weird. We'll have to just see that unfold. It's an exciting time to be an MMA fan, and I'm beyond happy to see all these different leagues stepping up and really putting on quality stuff.
Or competitive products are good.
I know that was way longer than Country Club intended when he dished that one, but there's a lot around that. I mean, we could do a whole episode just on that, honestly, but proceed with the news and notes, my friend.
Some less exciting news. Cedric Dombe, I'm probably saying that wrong. Dombe, the kickboxer, was set for his UFC debut in Paris in September, and removed from the UFC pool. I think it was over contract related dispute. I saw a rumbling.
I saw that, but I had no idea why. So he tweeted like 2 days ago a meme of Dana White's top 5 fighters all time. And it was like 4 GOATs and then him at the 3 slot. And then Kamaru as an honorable mention. And I got a chuckle. I was like, what the fuck? But when I first looked at it, I was like, that can't be real. And I found out he posted it. And then I looked and I was like, oh, that fight's going to be exciting. I looked on, I was like, oh, that fight's going to be exciting. Literally the next day, he got cut, I guess. So
I don't know anything about it. I saw the report. I saw that there was going to be more information coming. Yeah. So I haven't read.
I think more to come there. We'll find out something someday.
Okay.
And I know you guys touched on it while I wasn't here last week, but Bo Nickel. Oh,
Bo Nickel. Yeah.
Got another Contender Series fight.
Dan, you drilled that one right on the head. I meant to text you about that. You crushed it. You said the whole, because I was furious, Kobe. You weren't here. I was furious. Yeah, you listened. I was pissed. And Dan kind of saw the game plan coming from the beginning. I think Dana's kind of heard it, and he's got another fight. He's going to be minus 5,000. He's going to destroy the guy. And then they're probably going to give him a UFC contract or even a developmental contract, because the UFC has so many subsidiaries. It's like, okay, he fights for Cage Warriors or LFA or whatever is on Fight Pass. But to just outright not sign the guy, Dan was on to something that he was going to fight again on Contender Series. I bet that's the most viewed one too. I bet it is. So who am I to question Dana?
Let's get into some fight announcements. We got a handful here, and I think I did a pretty good job. Let me know if I'm replicating anything. But
Country Club, you always do a good job, my friend. I'm not even worried about that.
Keep me in line here. Biggie Boy, Jairzinho Rosenstrike, and Chris Dawkins. October 1st.
We've already done that. No, that's new. Yeah, I don't know. That's going to be interesting. I mean, I think that's Biggie Boy's fight to lose.
Some of these
Dan's a much bigger fan of Biggie Boy than he is Chris Dawkins. So he's going to be, Dan, set the spread. I don't want to get tipped. Never mind.
Yeah, that's not even a minute.
Dan is going to say minus 250. I already know it.
That's not a pay-per-view card. So that'll be probably a main event card. Or I'm sorry, a main card fight. Right. Jared Cannonier and Sean Strickland, October 15th.
Another fun matchup. I'm excited to get a really favorable price on Sean Strickland now that everyone thinks he's an idiot.
He is an idiot, but
he is an idiot.
It's for different reasons. It's for totally different reasons.
He's still a good fighter.
Yeah, Dan, who do you tipped exactly what I was going to say. I love Cannonier. Cannonier is one of my favorite fighters just as a guy, but I kind of like Strickland in that one, just based on how the fight's probably going to play
out. Week later, this is again on the 280 card, October 22nd. We got another fight to announce. Hamdi Abdelwahab and Parker Porter.
A fun one. I mean, they needed some heavyweights over there, and Hamdi, the return. Let's get after it.
Hamdi's going to be a fan favorite. I've had casuals ask me about it, so that's how you know it's coming. The Hamdi train, baby.
We have Dominic Reyes back in the octagon against Ryan Spann, November 12th. That's UFC 281 in New York.
And that one's got some awesome fights popping up. I'm sure you're going to mention as we go on. But I just want to shout out Dominic Reyes. He had a funny tweet when that came out. He's really only lost to fighters whose first name start with J. And this is a guy whose name doesn't start with J, and so he's really excited about it.
Did you say 281?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that was trendy today, but I've not looked much into what fights.
281, New York City. Kobe will get into it.
Yeah, but one
Meatball thing, Molly's already on it. It's going to be Izzy, right?
Well, so
no, that's
they announced today Brad Riddell.
Right. So I've got Brad Riddell, Renato Moicano, as well as Carlos Esparza's Zhang Weili.
Yeah, when I see Brad Riddell added to a card, I can imagine that there's going to be some more city kickboxing kind.
Wait, that Glover.
That's coming up here. That's not that card. That's December 10th.
That's real though. I thought that was like a meme.
No, I think that they're in talks. I don't know if it's official, but
okay. I'm not even going to chime in. Continue. But wow.
So hold on. That was 281. That was Brad Riddell, Renato Moicano, Carlos Esparza, Zhang Weili, and Dom Reyes, Ryan Spann.
Dude, low key, that's a great matchup for Dom Reyes because I don't think Ryan Span's going to try to wrestle. I think he's going to want to strike, which is a great thing to get Dom Reyes' career back on track. I mean, we're talking a guy who went 5 rounds with John Jones and had great success. I mean, we're not talking about
John Jones. I was in the room there.
Nope.
I was watching. He beat John Jones.
I agree, but we're not saying that because that's not factually correct. Just like Martin Boudet just beat Lucas Brzezinski.
Jose Aldo beat Marlon Moraes.
Apparently.
I also can confirm that is the Izzy card. Izzy versus Alex Pereira is the main event there. Meatball Molly and Aaron Blanchfield. I know
Can you also confirm that Merab is in fact the GOAT? I've been watching these memes of him, and I was taping him the other day. He is literally goated. He is the funniest guy on planet Earth.
He's fighting the GOAT, that's for sure.
When every interview I've seen of Merab, I die. Dan, you sent the celebration when Merab got his contract. How do you not love this guy? He is the funniest guy on earth. Merab's goated and is making a run for Dorino as my pound for pound favorite.
December 3rd, Jack Hermanson, Derek Brunson.
Another great matchup.
And we thought that Derek Brunson might have been. Is this Derek Brunson's last fight? I remember seeing something.
I thought Brunson retired after he lost to Cannonier.
Yeah.
Brunson beat Cannonier, right?
No, he did not.
No, he lost.
That's what gave Cannonier the title shot where he got to.
Oh, right. He won that first round. And
he did win the first round. Blonde Brunson's first loss, Rip.
That was down in Houston. 2 more to announce, both on UFC 282. Ponzinibbio and Robbie Lawler.
Reece, go ahead.
I don't want to spend too much on this, but Robbie Lawler was a longtime favorite of mine, and he still is. I love Robbie Lawler. But in the wake of Rory McDonald's news, that's what made me kind of sit back on this one and kind of go, why? I mean, outside of Nick Diaz, who should never have been in the ring, Robbie's been getting wrecked. I mean, when you get knocked out by Brian Barberena, Jason Witt went to unanimous decision. When you get knocked out by Brian Barberena, I would imagine you'd think. But I don't know, man. I hope this is Robbie's send-off or it's getting close to, but ruthless Robbie Lawler made a name in this sport for a reason. The dude lives to fight. I mean, I think the question that people ponder is violence real because of Robbie Lawler, or is Robbie Lawler real because of violence? And you never know the answer. Which one came first, chicken or egg?
So we teased it a little bit, I guess unconfirmed on this card, but it's certainly shaping up this way, is the rematch Yuri and Glover Teixeira.
So one more thing, one of my TikTok videos that you guys didn't see, by the way, our TikTok's popping off. Thank you for everyone who's following. And if you're here right now because of TikTok, we love you. And if you're one of our listeners, long time, way before the TikTok regime, go check it out. It's hilarious. But I did a filter where fighters run in your head. And I said, Dan, that Khamzat Chimaev, we talked about this last week, is a better pound for pound fighter than Yuri Prochazka. And the comment section almost took my head off. So when Glover beats him, because he should have the first time, hopefully it'll all be put to rest.
And they rightfully so did it. I mean, we don't need to rehash this argument, but at this point in time, on August 18th, 2022, it's ridiculous to say that Khamzat is pound for pound ahead of Yuri. But that's all I'm going to say.
We're going for the big thing, Dan, is we're going for the chaos.
That's all I got for news and notes, so we can turn it up to Contender Series. We had 3 finishes, I believe.
So yeah, Contender Series was wild this weekend. So we had a lot of really good fights. Obviously, Yanni the Greek couldn't pick one to save his left nut, but everyone got a contract. Nazim Sadikov just dominated for 3 straight rounds, got the finish, got the contract. Haley Cowan didn't get a finish, but got the contract. And there's 135 needs some fresh blood. So she's a gymnast. She was very, very, very strong. Looks good. Jack Cartwright dropped to Jose Johnson. This one was supposed to end in a finish. It didn't. They were threatening it a lot. Good fight overall. Jack Cartwright was undefeated going in, so gets his first professional loss. Claudio Ribeiro, 25-second knockout after Yanni took the over 1.5. Great left hook. phenomenal. I'm excited to see what he brings to 85. Main event was another minute 30 knockout. It was Esteban Ribovic, and he looks the part as well for 155. So this contender series is definitely drawing away from tough, but a lot of these guys can compete in the UFC where it sits right now. So I'm excited that all 5 contracts got handed out, and it was a great week overall. Back-to-back phenomenal contender series weeks after starting off slow. So whatever speech Dana White gave,
three weeks in a row,
paid dividends. This is week 4. So 3 weeks in a row, it's been bangers. The first week was bad. But yeah, so long story short, phenomenal. If you're not tuning into it, you should be. It's very entertaining.
Let's get to the pay-per-view. UFC 278, Vivint Arena, Salt Lake City, Utah. 9 p.m. main card, 5 p.m. prelims. That's Central Times.
Let's do it. So if you are from TikTok, you can fast forward ahead of a little bit. I've broken down half this card over there already, but we're going to start off with Victor Altamirano versus Daniel Da Silva. And Dan, this is one that I wanted to do as an ankle lock, to be completely honest. And it's obviously a joke. We probably can't lock this, but Victor Altamirano is minus 165. Daniel Da Silva is plus 140. I actually have Da Silva placed over on DraftKings at plus 160. This line opened at Victor Altamirano minus 170 or minus 220. Daniel Da Silva plus 170, which is ridiculous. So I tried to get on it early, and I did. It has since steamed down.
And you like the Lacerda, Da Silva side? I
do, and for one reason and one reason only. He's 25 years old. I know he's 0-2 in the UFC, but it's an Altamirano fade more than it is a Da Silva back. And it's not that Da Silva, if this was minus 110 each way, I'd probably lay off. But I was getting plus 160 on Da Silva, and that's just too high. Victor Altamirano is he has a very unconventional striking style about him. He lost, in my opinion, his Tuesday Night Contender Series fight where he got the contract. It was a split decision that went his way. I was so sure he lost. Paul Felder agreed. The whole commentator booth was kind of like, whoa. And then he lost his debut. We ankle locked against him. So I've had a lot of success fading this guy. I'm going to fade him again. I don't mean any disrespect to him, but he is a very weird striker. It's not very crisp. He loops his strikes a lot. He's not super coordinated. And he's fighting a guy in Da Silva who got signed to the UFC at 25, and there was a lot of excitement about it. Yeah, did he get subbed by Figueiredo, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt? Yeah. Yeah, did he struggle against Jeff Molina, who's 10 times the striker Altamirano is? Yes. But he's definitely being slept on to be plus 170 against Victor Altamirano.
Yeah, I seem to like the other side is the crazy thing that I took from taping. I think that Altamirano should be more like 200. I don't hate the opening line, and I think part of it is that it's a short notice matchup. You got Altamirano, who's been in a training camp for months, versus Lacerda, who's stepping in on a week or two's notice to step in for Jake Hadley. And so you think about a guy in Altamirano preparing for a really tough wrestler in Jake Hadley. And then I think as long as this fight's on the feet, I don't give Da Silva much of a chance. And so, yeah, I really think so. I think that the early sub is going to be Da Silva's best chance to win.
Wow. See, I worry about the gas tank, but I see how Altamirano handled the pressure from Carlos Candelario. I saw how he handled the pressure from Carlos Hernandez. Dude, Da Silva, I think, will get combos off and then just stay in the clinch, let it hit the mat. I think he can finish him, but I also think he can grind out a decision too. I was really happy with the price. And it dropped from 170 to 160. I got it late at 160.
I don't see Da Silva grinding out anything. You mentioned it, his cardio. It's
I mean, but we haven't really seen his cardio.
Is exciting.
He's only fought a round and a half in total in the UFC. The cardio is very suspect.
Right. It's very suspect. One thing I'm looking at is just I'm pulling up props and whatnot. on fightodds.io, and I'm seeing that over on BetUS, you can get the under 2.5 at -105. And to me, that seems like a ridiculously good number. I think it should be like -180, -190. And you're seeing it almost as high as that on other books. I think that this BetUS is a little bit of a generous line. That's something I am really drawn to. That's and you're getting both sides of the thing. I think that, like we said, or like I said, Lacerda can come in and get a quick finish, and I would not be like shocked, and my jaw would not hit the floor. But at the same time, I think that he's gonna gas, and Alton Moreno's gonna finish him as this fight goes on. I like the under 2.5, and it kind of covers both sides of the thought.
I was gonna say you get a little leniency on that pick because it's 125, and so they juice those a little bit towards the over, just from trends. But these guys' fight style, but Alton Moreno's fight style is a little conducive to decisions. He's high volume, light strikes, but I see what you're saying. If a man gasses, we saw it in last week, Blackshear. If the fight went another 30 seconds, Blackshear's done. People were calling for Blackshear for them to call it in just one round. So fatigue makes the strongest man look weak. So Arichi Lang is taking on Jay Perrin, and I'm really curious to hear your side on this one. Arichi Lang is currently -130. Jay Perrin is +110, but it opened Arichi Lang -300. Jay Perrin +250.
Yeah, this is one I think we missed the boat on.
You missed the boat on.
Oh, you got yourself.
Oh, you haven't been checking the Twitter? You haven't been checking the Twitter? So I currently have Jay Perrin +150. Yeah, I have Jay Perrin out at +150 right now.
But that's still, I mean, you could have gotten the 250 at open.
It was 250 for like a second. I was looking at the line movement.
Either way, I think that, am I going to sit here and try and talk you into a lock? No, not at all. But at the price, I think that it's dog or pass. And Jay Perrin,
I got 150.
I think he's got a lot more avenues to victory than Aori Kaling. It's just, for me, it's getting a little bit less appetizing than it used to be. Maybe if it trickles back towards where you got it, like 135, 140 range, I might
honestly
jump on it. But
it was a disservice to say it was -300. It opened at -300 on August 3rd at 14:24 military time, and by August 3rd, 14:38, it was -206.
Good 15 minutes, some sharp.
Yeah, but long story short, is it's continued to fade hard. Here's where I look at this. Arichi Lang is going to give you 2.5 to 3 minutes of just ridiculous pressure and pacing. After that, it's Jay Perrin's fight to lose. The other thing about Jay Perrin is his grandfather's in the Boxing Hall of Fame, Dan. I learned that while doing taping. And he's got good hands. I was overly impressed for a 10-5 guy, how he looked on the feet. So I thought there was going to be value there. And so I got great closing line value on that one too. So I've been very happy with both my early plays. I like Jay Perrin, but we'll see. I mean, Arichi Lang could get him out of there in the first round easily. But after that, I think it's Jay Perrin's fight to lose. Let's see. Amir Albazi's taking on Francisco Figueiredo, the younger brother of Deverson Figueiredo, and the line is massive. Amir Albazi -435, Francisco Figueiredo +350, 350, and Amir Albazi opened at -300 and has just gotten smashed. Well deserved too.
This is a pretty significant layoff for Amir Albazi, who hasn't fought since that win over Zalga Sumagulov back like January 2021, so almost like 2 full years. That though was a very impressive win. I was betting on Zalgas that night, and Amir Albazi looked really great. I think that the odds are where they are for a good reason, and that this is a great parlay piece, but not really much more I can do with it. And I really see Amir having the advantage over Frankie anywhere that this goes.
I literally have it the exact same. Like, great parlay piece. Can't do much more other than that. Francisco Figueiredo is going to look to use his jits. Only problem, Amir Albazi on the other side is a world champion jiu-jitsu practitioner. Don't think he's going to have much success.
And Figueiredo, similar to De Silva, similar to a lot of guys on this card, actually, has really suspect cardio.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a reoccurring theme as we go through this, is what I noticed with my take.
And I took the same notes. AJ Fletcher is taking on Ange Lusa, and Dorino's in the corner of Ange Lusa. Line, this takes place at at 170, and the line is Fletcher minus 165, Lusa plus 140. And it opened at Fletcher minus 190, and it's kind of gone back and forth. So it opened at 190 and kind of got hit down, and now it's come back towards the Fletcher side a little bit to meet at minus 165 plus 140. This one to me, Dan, out of the 3 fights we've gone through, even though the other ones were a couple plus 100s, this one's the hardest one for me to predict.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's because I can't really get a great read on Angalusa. And I see this fight as more of a striker versus grappler. Lusa with his kickboxing background being the striker. But then you talk about guys like Gilbert in his corner, and he's at Kill Cliff FC, which is some really great grapplers and whatnot. I know that Henry Hooft that is the head coach and he's a kickboxer, but that beside the point. The question marks about Lusa though are is he going to show up? Like versus Munir Lizez, it almost just looks like he's going through the motions, like sparring, not fighting, and then you get the version that showed up against Jack Della Maddalena on Contender Series, and he looked good. I mean, it's tough to fight Jack Della Maddalena, and it's
UD too. Took it to unanimous
right. AJ Fletcher, I think, is going to be the better athlete, though. Is interestingly enough.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't necessarily see it the same way.
I think he's going to be stronger. He's got cardio problems. We saw what happened when Semmelsberger was able to force him to gas a little bit. But I think that he can be the better wrestler, be the stronger if it becomes a grappling match. But like you said, I don't have the most confidence in this breakdown. It's working with not a lot of information and a lot of conflicting information.
Yeah. So my fear really just comes in with Ange Lusa, in my opinion, has better striking by a good margin. And I know that AJ Fletcher finishes Contender Series fight in quick fashion. And then he lost his debut against Matt Semmelsberger, had a great first round. I wouldn't even say he fatigued though, Dan. It was more like he just kind of lost those 50-50 positions. Look, your breakdown's near perfect. If Ange Lusa shows up like he did in the Della Maddalena fight, lets his hands go, maybe implements a shot or two, I think he'll do okay. However, if he is throwing just the 1-2, I mean, in the Munir Lizez fight, he only fired the 1-2. Gilbert was screaming for him to throw that left, didn't, or didn't often. Whenever he did, it landed. So he's got to listen to his coaches, and I think he's got to throw volume. If he does that, I do believe it's his fight to lose. It's just a lot of question marks. The other thing that I worry about, Dan, can he defend the takedown with consistency? Because I think that if Fletcher doesn't have success on his feet, he's going to throw it to the mat. And it worked against Semmelsberger for a while. Will it also work against Lusa? Maybe. So those are a couple question marks making this a no bet for me. Miranda Maverick versus Shauna Young. They've already fought in their career earlier, and Miranda Maverick's minus 600. Shauna Young is plus 430 or 450. It opened at minus 350, and so you've missed every bit of parlay ad on Miranda's side. The only way I see this, Dan, not to spend too much time, it's Miranda Maverick. She can do it however she wants to do it. She already subbed Shauna Young in her first round. Shannon Young had some issues grappling a girl like Stephanie Egger. So I imagine that she's going to have even more issues grappling Miranda Maverick. Unfortunately, the line at 650 is untouchable, even for a parlay ad, in my opinion, even though I really don't see Miranda Maverick losing. So I would just sit back and watch Miranda Maverick do Miranda Maverick and just take notes because she's the future 125. But I don't know if there's an area to bet this.
I'm just clicking into that.
I'm right,
event.
right? She beat Shannon Young, right?
Yeah, I'm clicking into that event. And I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is. If it's like mixed martial arts or jujitsu, it's listed as an exhibition, but she beat Victoria Leonardo, Shanna Young, and Deanna Bennett all that same night on a card that had
it was like an Invicta
Maria
Grand Prix type
Agapova, a card that had Kay Hansen, a card that had just a lot of UFC talent in it. It's just an interesting. Like to watch that one back.
Yeah, I actually didn't tape that fight because of how long ago it was. I didn't
get into it either.
Didn't know if it was gonna be super relevant, but I just Miranda Maverick's well-rounded, and Shanna Young. It's not that she's not well-rounded, but she's getting ground and pounded by a striker, Stephanie Egger, losing some transitions. It makes me feel like Miranda Maverick is going to have a lot of success.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
But the problem is the line
agrees. Yeah. Right. No, I don't have a ton to add. I don't suggest blindly betting a woman's dog here. Miranda Maverick's part of this generation of new contenders that we've been talking about a little bit at flyweight, and I think that she's going to look great.
And technically, based on the system that Kobe mentioned, where if it's -3, whatever higher you don't take, technically this is not within our system. So if you are following the science, lay off this one.
Sean Wood tend to think that Kamaru's going to win. This might be an important fight to maybe not tune in for, but pay attention to the result, because Miranda's the first team elevation fighter that's going to fight, and it's obviously just good for a coach and for a corner group to get momentum. So.
Amen to that. Sean Woodson is fighting Luis Saldana at 145, and the line is Sean Woodson -340, Luis Saldana +280. It opened at -300 for Sean Woodson, so very little movement. Dan, Sean Woodson, the fact that he makes 145 is almost comical. He's like 6'2", the lankiest man I've ever seen. The thing is, and my big issue with it is, I've seen suspect fight IQ, mainly in the Julian Erosa fight and mainly the Yusuf Zalal fight. But he has a win over Terrence McKinney via flying knee. You know what I mean? Like that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, we know McKinney gasses, but like when it comes to striking and accuracy and range, Sean Woodson has it in spades. So the question is, can Luis Saldana make him make a mistake? That was my read from the whole thing.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Sean Woodson's a really tough puzzle to solve with the reach you mentioned. Don't love the number. I think he's got the potential to really ruin some parlays and really, I don't know, like you said, just be to his own detriment. And it's not so much that I think Luis Saldana is a killer or is got his number. And I won't be playing Luis Saldana, but I just can't see myself playing Sean Woodson either until he puts on a performance that I think is, I don't want to say safer, but it's smarter and that is more concise.
That's my take too. Literally, like Sean Woodson could look a -900 favorite here, absolutely. But until I am comfortable with him having a 2-0 lead, knowing he's not going to get finished, I'm not interested in this necessarily. Jared Gordon's taking on Leonardo Santos, the 42-year-old warrior, Leonardo Santos. And Jared Gordon, a lot of lines here. Jared Gordon's -265, Leo Santos +225. Opened at Jared Gordon -225, so he's seeing a little bit of action here, Dan.
You said Jared Gordon is?
Yes, he opened at 225 and is now as high as minus 265.
And I think that a lot has to do with the storyline that Leonardo Santos at 42 years old is just glass chin
and yeah, Clay Guida finished him, and then Grant Dawson also finished him. If I remember correctly, though, that Grant Dawson fight was a lot closer.
And the Clay Guida one.
If I remember correctly.
In round one, Leonardo Santos almost finished Clay with those body shots.
I do remember that. Did he gas out in that one?
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, this is one where I think that the public has more confidence on Jared Gordon than he's garnered. He's not a guy who I think is just going to go out there and starch Leonardo Santos. I almost think that Leo is going to win the first round, and this would be a better spot to just live bet Jared after the first if you are really so confident that Leonardo isn't durable or that he's going to get knocked out. To me, I see them as pretty even fighters, and that if athleticism was equal, I might even favor Leonardo Santos. And so the line for me is a little out of whack.
Will you be placing Leo?
It's one that's in the tickler file. It's definitely one that I'm considering. It
Okay.
seems like the age is really getting to a lot of people, and if the line keeps moving the way that it's moving, I won't be able to stay away.
Okay, that's good to know. I had a similar approach to it, although Jared Gordon looked very good in his last couple. I know he ended up losing to Grant Dawson, but he looked good until he didn't. Prelim main event here, Marcin Tybura, Alexander Romanov. And Alexander Romanov is getting a lot of love by the books here and the public. He's minus 340, and he opened at minus 240. He's seen as high as minus 400. It's come down a little bit. Look, I mean, Romanov's phenomenal. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He's really well-rounded. He's got great wrestling. He's got decent hands. He's got a good enough submission game. He's the full package, especially at heavyweight, which you don't see often. He really is. But Tybura's a tough out. I know he's a little small for heavyweight, which is the only thing that I'm a little about. But I mean, Tybura is not like a guy that just gets rolled over. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I'm kind of like at a crossroads here. I mean, he beat Sergey Spivak. Sergey Spivak is someone who I put in the same type of vein as Alexander Romanov. Romanov might be a little bigger and a little better, but it's the same vein. So I don't know. This one feels like a little bit high of a price to pay, but it's also Romanov. So I just don't know.
I agree with you completely. I think that this, similarly to Leo Santos, is going to be one where I just am going to end up on come fight day. Tybura is very skilled. He's got the jiu-jitsu to not just lay on his back for 15 minutes. And we saw what happened against Juan Espino. If you are semi-capable and you have semi-good takedown defense and you're a smart grappler, all of a sudden Romanov, maybe he's not the world beater that 16-0 implies, and that the dominant wins over Chase Sherman and Jared Vanderaa and Roque Martinez. It's not going to happen against this highest level of ranked heavyweights. And regardless of if Marcin wins or not, this number is way out of whack for me. I just don't feel comfortable playing Romanov that high.
I agree. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like in a pick'em, and this might be just a dumb comment, but like in a pick'em or minus 110, it's like I comfortably think Romanov's going to win.
Right.
But we're playing a value game as bettors. And like the value game is what makes this different, because is Tybura really going to lose this fight 75% of the time? Like, I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, to me, I don't see it that way. And
I kind of don't either.
I give him the advantage on the feet, and I think that his jiu-jitsu is very much, I don't want to say slept on like it's some hidden secret, but he's very skilled in that department.
He is.
So I don't think that he's just out of water on his back. And if that's the entirety of Romanov's plan, that's not going to work for 15 minutes at the highest level. And that's what he's getting to.
Yep. I think like all the guys out of the top 15, the Chase Shermans of the world, I mean, Romanov's going to dismantle. But when you start getting to the well-rounded guys like Marcin Tybura, like Marcin didn't sign that contract going, oh, I'm going to get dominated. Like he thinks he can win. And I don't disagree with him. I mean, it starts to get harder as you get up in competition. I mean, Romanov's significantly bigger, which I think will hurt in the grappling exchanges, even if he's less technical.
But we also saw the significantly bigger carrying significantly more. He's not as fresh in that third round. I think a guy like Marcin is going to have a much better gas tank as this fight wears on, and especially if Romanov's having a little bit of trouble getting Marcin to the mat consistently, he's going to tire out. And
that's another thing you can look for is, let's say Tybura dropped round 1, dropped round 2, but after the 3-minute mark or the 4-minute mark, he had a lot of success. You might huck out a minus or plus 600 on a heavyweight round 3 who's fresher. You know what I mean? So that's something to look for. Main card now for UFC 278, Usman versus Edwards 2. It's a decent main card. One title is on the line, but a couple fan favorite fights in the co-main and the third fight of the evening. But we'll start with the two that just get your toes in the water, Dan. First one's going to be Tyson Pedro against Harry Hunsucker. Don't need to spend too much time here. The line is minus 730 for Tyson Pedro. Plus 530.
Why is this on the main card?
I have no idea. Plus 530 for Harry Hunsucker. And the worst part, it opened at minus 750. So it hasn't moved much either. It's an unbettable fight because Tyson Pedro, as well-rounded as he is, had a 4-year layoff and got finished by Ovin St. Peru, a 40-year-old Shogun Hua, and lost to Ilir Latifi. So, like, you can't lay 700 on that guy and be like, oh, I'm in great shape.
His only wins since 2017 are Saperbek Saparov and Ike Villanueva.
Exactly. If you need to hear more, then. But at the same time, we're sitting on a guy who lost to Jared Van Der on Contender Series, wins a regional seed, and the UFC goes, you know what? We really need bodies. 49-second KO against Tai Tuivasa loss, and then a minute 54 loss to Justin Tafa via head kick.
Yeah, Harry Hunsucker is brutal. And now he's coming down to 205.
He's in trouble. The problem is, though, is like, are you really going to do Pedro to win inside the distance at minus 450? Like, is it that much better? Like, I don't know. I mean, it's going to end inside the distance, but like, I don't know if there's an angle here, Dan.
Is that where that number is? Because if so, then we can just move on to the next fight.
We're moving on. There's just nowhere to put it. I mean, don't put it in a parlay. It's too risky. Anyone's got a puncher's chance. But like,
and does it really help your parlay?
No, it doesn't. None of this helps. Just enjoy a one-sided domination. Feel bad for Harry because he's gonna have to find a.
You know what? That's why they put it on the main card. It's so we could have our bathroom breaks. It's so fans in the arena could refill their beer. It's This is a fun fight if you're.
This is at least going to be a finish. This next one might be a better opportunity to go fill your beer. You got Lucy Pudilova coming back against Yanan Wu at 135. And the line is Pudilova minus 120, Yanan Wu plus 100. The reason why I mentioned the beer fill, though, the over 2.5 is minus 400. So you will have more than enough time to fill up your beer, take a grumper, go back, realize you also have to pee, go take a pee, and still make it back for the second round of a clinch battle. The line's very close. Pudilova is making her return. She was just back on the regional scene. So she's in the UFC. She drops 4 straight. Irina Aldana, Liz Caramouche, and Tina Shevchenko, Justine Kish. Goes on the regional scene, goes on a tear. She does lose to a 6-4 Talita Bernardo, but she wins all her other fights there, comes back, and is now fighting Yanan Wu. Yanan Wu is 0-3 in the UFC and is also figuring out how to keep her job. The fact that this is a main card fight and not a curtain jerker, or shouldn't even be happening to begin with, is more suspect. She lost to Gina Mazzani in the UFC, beat Lauren Mueller, and then ripped off 3 straight losses to Mizuki Ayunu, Jocelyn Edwards, and Mayra Bueno Silva. So we're in a suspect fight to begin with that should even be happening. Finds itself on the pay-per-view main card over Tibur Romanov, over Maverick.
And you haven't
Johnny
even
Young.
said the worst part yet.
But
there's a minus in front of both ladies' numbers, and so there's no technical dog in this one.
Cringe, right? I mean,
terrible. I'm not gonna lie to the listeners. I didn't spend a second of time taping this.
Oh, good. I don't have to lie either. I too did not. I mean, I spent a little bit of time. I wouldn't necessarily say taping, but I know these girls well. So I looked into their recent opponents and what type of success they found after dealing with them and little things like that. But look,
I skipped it. I said, fuck it.
Look, just save your money. It's not worth it. But if you're so inclined, you're dying to get some action on. The only way you can watch this fight is if you have money out there. Take a dog at close if there is one, and if there isn't,
is that over 2.5 minus 400 you mentioned safe enough to throw in my parlay?
It is. Sadly enough, it is. Take the over 0.5 at minus 1,200 or is 1,200 to win 100. No, this fight's just ridiculous and shouldn't be a thing, but it is. So we'll see. I mean,
Johnny the Greek take that, and all of a sudden it's like flying armbar, right? Flying whiz bar DJ style.
Based on Johnny the Greek's track record, that is what happens. I mean, I kind of lean Pudilova, but like, I don't know. I wouldn't touch this. All right, now we're getting to the meat. I mean, the whole pay-per-view, the $75 you're spending is for these three fights. Jose Aldo versus Merab Dvalishvili. I had an absolute blast taping this guy, Dan. The line sits at Merab Dvalishvili minus 130. He's minus 140 on a lot of books, but DraftKings have it minus 130. Jose Aldo plus 110. Dan, I'll save you the trouble. I agree with you. Aldo's the bet.
Oh, wow.
I'll save you the trouble. Okay.
I was going to let you just go ahead before I
hold on. I'll save you the trouble. I love Merab. I'm his biggest fan. He is hilarious. I would love to hang out and drink with this guy. There's nothing I don't like about Merab. However, as much as I love Merab, the only thing I like just a tad bit more is money. Jose Aldo at plus 110 is a steal. I'm not betting it because I think it's going to continue to run, Dan. I really do. I think sharps hit it one way because they know the storyline behind Merab. I think it's going to continue to tail. I'm probably going to take this tomorrow before the not casuals, but the mainstream audience who know the name Jose Aldo Aldo take it back a little bit. But here's the thing of it. If this goes to the judges' scorecards, Dan, Merab wins. I'm going to be completely honest. I think that if it goes to the judges' scorecard, that means that Merab's held up on the feet. He most likely got his grappling off. His style is very conducive for him getting the decision and the other person not. Because if you always are up against the fence or you're always escaping takedowns, it's kind of like if you continue to land takedowns, even if you don't get that much damage off and you push the pace, okay, you're going to get the decision. However, the other thing to mention is Merab's impossible to put out. But I think Jose Aldo gets the finish here. And I think that I'm going to do decision or finish only Jose Aldo. I don't see Jose Aldo getting finished by Merab Dvalishvili. I don't see how. He doesn't get subbed. He's not going to lose the feet exchange. He's not. But Merab has very suspect striking in the aspect that it's high volume and his 1-2 is crisp. When you start building into combinations, when you start looking at striking defense, that's where you really start to see him struggle. And as phenomenal as a wrestler he is, every round starts on the feet. The other thing, Jose Aldo has a 90% takedown defense. We're talking about guys, he's
elite, goated takedown defense. He's
fought guys like Chad Mendez, guys like Frankie Edgar in their prime. And so, I mean, I know that he's struggled against the super elites, Petr Yan, Volkanovski, Holloway. But
Connor.
We're getting into 2015, but yeah, Connor.
Nah.
But he's rattled off Marlon Vera, Pedro Munoz, Rob Font, all much better strikers than Merab. if it goes to decision, I can. If you told me right now, fast forward, you go, Reece, breaking news. The only information I'm going to give you is the Merab Aldo fight goes to decision. I'm putting good money on Merab. I am. I feel good about that. But I don't see a possibility where Merab can finish Aldo. But I do see a possibility where Aldo can finish Merab. So I'm going to take finish only Jose Aldo, and I might sprinkle a little bit on Jose Aldo. But I love Merab. I hope he wins. I think if he wins, he's next in line for a title shot. I mean, I'm all in on Merab. I think he's fucking hilarious. I think he's one of the funniest guys in the UFC, and he's unintentionally funny. He's just goated in all metrics. But we're talking about like a guy who's actually the GOAT. And someone who has totally had a resurgence at 135, is more technical everywhere, although his wrestling is not the same as Merab's. I'm shocked at where this line's gone. That's all I'll say. If I was to give the line right now after my taping, I would do Aldo minus 145. So I do think you're getting a lot of value. And that's coming from a Merab fanboy. Sorry for the rant, Dan. I'll cue it off.
No. I wanted to let you run there because you do have a lot of really important perspective when it comes to this.
Can you agree with me though that Merab is fucking hilarious and like
for sure.
Loaded? Okay.
For sure. Yeah, the everything you mentioned, I agree with. I have no real
qualms.
Yeah, qualms.
Sorry. I knew the word. I had to rip it.
No, you're good. But yeah, I'm all over the King of Rio here. He's only looked better in this stint at 135. Yeah, he's just phenomenal. He's my GOAT at featherweight.
Would you feel good enough to ankle lock him?
It's tough.
I'm just trying to gauge where your perspective's at on it, because I wouldn't. I
disagree with your point of the decision can only be Merab's. As good as he is at one, his cardio is off the charts. But as good as his wrestling is, his top pressure is not terrific. And part of the reason why he's getting 15 takedowns a fight is because his opponent's getting up 15 times. Yeah. And he did talk about Jose Aldo having just the best goated takedown defense. That's something I still believe in. I think that there's a really realistic avenue where, I mean, similar to what we saw versus Rob Font and Chito Vera. Obviously not similar because Merab's going to be pushing for the takedown the whole time, but the idea of Jose hurting his opponent each round and just kind of winning the striking exchanges pretty handily without putting in that final nail in the coffin. That's all I really wanted to add.
Well, the only counter I have to that is I would hope that that Sarah Longo gym with Aljo as his main training partner has helped him with that top pressure. I would hope, because that's what a good camp would do. And do you know who holds the record for most takedowns in a single fight?
Sarah?
No,
it's Habib.
With like 22. And Habib had 22 takedowns and
5-round fights though.
True. But I don't know if it was at the time though. That I would have to go back and check. But as his career progressed, he learned that top control a lot better. And I think that I'm hoping that when you look at that Sarah Longo gym, mainly Sarah, with Aljo as his training partner, I kind of imagine that he'll do a little better. Now, again, I know that's assuming, but the other thing too is judges love takedown and control time. You see it time and time again. Even when there's not that much damage landed, they still usually give the edge to those guys. So like, let's say Merab gets 6 takedowns, 5 takedowns, 2-2-1. Like, even if he controls him for a minute and a half, that's a minute and a half where Aldo's not getting offense off, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I see you. I just think Joe. I just think that absolutely too good.
Let me ask you this. Do you see right now a scenario where Merab finishes this fight?
No. And that's why I like your bet a lot.
Yeah. Finish only seems great. But then again, Merab's impossible to finish. So it just gets voided. Who cares? But we'll see. I mean, this one's tough for me to bet just because I like Merab so much.
In theory, who would you have favored in a matchup between Merab Dvalishvili and Marlon Chito Vera?
Merab. Pretty
Pretty
sizably
huge.
too.
Sizably, wow.
To be honest, like I'm talking more sizably than this. Like it would be like Merab minus like 180.
Okay, that's it.
Because I think that Aldo's style is much more conducive to having success against Merab than a guy like Vera is. I think Vera slow starts would hurt him. I think Merab would dump him early, wear on him. I don't think it'd be a fun night at the office for Cheeto. But that's an interesting question. That's something I got to think a little bit more about. Co-main event, Luke Rockhold versus Paulo Costa at 185. Both these guys' last fights were at 205. Luke Rockhold's looking to make a resurgence. He's been making a ton of waves in media too for just being a ridiculous man. He called out a lot of people, and he's been, I don't know if you're watching Embedded, but he's into crystals now. I don't know. He's doing Luke Rockhold things. But the line is Paulo Costa minus 360, Luke Rockhold plus 295. It opened at Luke Rockhold plus 230. So a lot of people are finding Costa to be the victor here. All I'll say, Dan, because I don't have a lot to add on this, because I don't find myself on this come Saturday night. Look, I think Costa is in his best form right now. When I look at him physically, I think we're looking at the best version of Paulo Costa. But when I look at how badly he lost to Adesanya, and him kind of sell, to be honest, when I look how out of shape and unserious he took the Marvin Vettori fight, I cannot comfortably lay that much on a guy that I don't trust. Luke Rockhold, on the other hand, I mean, he's knocked out by Jan Blachowicz, knocked out brutally by Yoel Romero, knocked out brutally by Michael Bisping. So you got 2016 beats David Branch, and then 2018, 2019 brutal knockouts. Coming back after 3 years, and he's trying to take on Paulo Costa. I mean, look, I'm not saying his chin might have recovered over the 3 years. He might have been training ridiculously. He might have a new mindset. He might have all these things. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not taking Costa at the 360. I don't think Costa is a good parlay ad. But I truly don't trust either of these guys. And that's why I don't even feel comfortable taking the dog either. I think I'm just going to omit myself from this altogether. And then when I looked at the lines, the only thing I could see is maybe an under. If Rockhold gets us to the mat where he wants it, maybe he can. But the under is minus 220. Is that really great for a 3-round fight? So I'm personally passing.
I saw an interesting kind of whatever dynamic looking at the same thought process as you looking at that under. The under 1.5 is plus money, while the under 2.5 is minus 220.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that fight ends in round 2. I'm seeing it like plus 300, plus 400, and it might be worth a little sprinkle. Is the way I kind of approach this. But yeah, not a whole
under
lot
1.5. It might be worth a sprinkle. You said.
No, the fight ends in round 2 is like plus 300, plus 400 in a couple places. And
I don't hate that at all.
There's an interesting discrepancy between the under 2.5 and the under 1.5 that props up that second round is like an interesting spot from Vegas's.
Wow.
opinion.
Dan, I'm not going to lie. You impress me week in and week out, but that's a spot that I didn't even think about. That's interesting. Hats off to you, sir. That's a great poll.
Cheers. But yeah, no, I don't really have a ton to add in terms of the actual matchup. I tend to be more on the side that Luke Rockhold's coming back for a paycheck. And that's part of the reason why he's so frustrated about fighter pay, maybe.
But
yeah,
doesn't he have modeling gigs and shit? Like, does he really need the money that bad?
I don't know if Luke Rockhold's name carries as much weight as it did in like 2009.
Maybe. I don't know. It's such a weird spot because in my head, it's like, oh, it's Luke Rockhold. He's modeling for Gucci and all these people. He's the middleweight champion. It's Luke freaking Rockhold. But now that you think about it, he hasn't fought in 3 years. He has an expensive lifestyle. I don't know what the modeling checks look like. Like maybe he is coming back for a paycheck. I don't know. And the other thing too, when you see a guy who takes a 3-year layoff, it's impossible to not ask yourself, how hard has he been training in those 3 years? I mean, did he take a year off?
Also, my whole theory about the Paulo Costa funny business, whatever. You saw his coach make some comments going into the Yoel Romero fight about how good the weight cut was for Paulo. And then for the Adesanya and Vettori fights, we noticed how unseriously he was taking that weight cut and how probably brutal it was for him.
Yeah.
And it appears from just even the side-by-side photos of what he looks like on fight week, from the Vettori fight and this week, it appears he's taking that weight cut a lot more seriously again. And so I expect a better version of Paulo come fight night. That being said, it's all speculation.
Weight cut aside, I felt like he wasn't even taking the sport seriously. The way he fought that Adesanya fight, I mean, he looked for a way out. Look, I'm not one of those guys, but like his leg was getting chewed up. I get it. But like the last two fights, Marvin Vettori and Israel Adesanya, I could say objectively, from my point of view, it looked like he wasn't taking the sport seriously, not just his weight cut. And
I'm just saying it's really positive to see what he looks like in preparation for this fight, in preparation for this weight cut. I know he came out with the excuses after Adesanya, like, oh, I was drinking wine and this and that. I think it was more so the weight cut than anything else.
I can agree to that. I really can. Here's the thing though. He looks different. He's talking different. He's acting different. But until I see it, I don't know if I can lay 360.
Yeah, that's smart as a long-term profitable bettor.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Main event, guys, of this card, the best main event around. Kamaru Usman is fighting Leon Rocky Edwards 2. And if you watch the embedded, Kamaru Usman flew his nutritionist and his family and his friends out in a private jet, while Rockhold was shopping the bargain bin over at the local grocer. So people were saying this truly is a Rocky story with Leon Edwards in the battle of David versus Goliath here. Kamaru Usman is minus 365. Leon Edwards plus 300. I'll make it short for you. Leon Edwards has never been plus 300, even against a fake future events against Khamzat Chimaev. He's obviously Khamzat's not as good as Kamaru, but is not plus 300. This is unprecedented territory for Leon Edwards to be plus 300. He was even, against guys like RDA, he was minus 105. So this is truly the likes of an underdog he's never seen before, but he's also fighting a guy that he hasn't seen since the first time they matched. And I don't know what the line was the first time they matched. I can actually get it for you while it's here. It was Kamaru minus 140. So it is a lot different of a story now, but Kamaru finds himself at minus 365 here against Leon Rocky Edwards, Dan, for the UFC 170-pound strap. What's your thoughts?
My thoughts are that Kamaru Usman is the best fighter or one of the best fighters in the world right now.
It's him and Volkanovski, and then there's Cliff.
And the improvement that he's been making fight to fight is significant too. His striking's at a whole other place than it was even 2-3 years ago. And that makes it a tough spot to try and take the underdog here, especially with, like you mentioned, kind of going through Leon's record. And his best victory is like an RDA. Cowboy Cerrone, guys that are at a different point in their careers than they were when Leon fought them. And it's interesting because of also the first matchup that you mentioned. It was a little bit of a boring fight. Kamaru, I won't say dominated, but his wrestling played a huge factor, and that's been weighing on Leon forever. It's his only loss. Or not his only loss, but his only UFC loss. No, that's not even. I keep putting my foot in my mouth. But it's his only loss since 2015. That's true.
There you go. You'll get it. You'll get it.
But yeah, that's been weighing on Leon a ton, and so I have to assume there's been some huge steps in the right direction in that wrestling department. But will it be enough to stop a guy like we've mentioned a couple times that we hold as one of the best in the world at pretty much everything, and in terms of athleticism, cardio, the intangibles, it's really Kamaru's division. It's tough because I don't have a really great way to play this one, but I do expect Kamaru to. I expect an and still. I think that as much as we want to meme it and laugh off Leon getting stung by Nate Diaz, I think that a guy like Kamaru would never get stung by Nate Diaz at this point in their career. And Kamaru, with his improvements that he's made in striking and working with Trevor Whitman day in and day out on that boxing, I think that he will have a lot more success than Leon thinks or expects on the feet. I think
it reminds me a lot of Khabib's career, where you looked at Khabib and he was, 20 whatever and and all these things. And people always tried to figure out how not to bet him at minus 280 or 300 or 350 or whatever it ended up being at the time. I mean, he was minus, even against Poirier, I guess he ended up closing at 450, but like McGregor is only minus 200, which is one of the biggest steals ever. But moral of the story is he always found himself. I mean, Edson Barbosa, he was minus 400, which is kind of heavy, but you find it here with Kamaru at minus 360. Is these guys are just so freaking good that I think you can add Kamaru to all of your parlays and feel fine. But I also don't know. I mean, you could lay the 360. You really could. But you're talking to a guy who laid 900 on Amanda. So I don't know. I just don't see how Kamaru drops this outside of a flash knockout. You know, when Dorino Burns tagged him and Kamaru got wobbled, it's like if something like that happens, but 34 Kamaru doesn't, or 35-year-old Kamaru doesn't recover as fast and Leon gets the finish, that's possible for sure. That's possible. But outside of that, I don't see a scenario where Leon can get it done. He does not get it done by decision. He doesn't get it done in the clinch exchanges. He doesn't get it done in the grappling. So I don't know where Leon could get the job done outside of a flash KO. And like you said, if he's not putting out Nate Diaz, but he's getting clipped by Nate Diaz, that's a bad sign going into a guy like Kamaru.
100%. And I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to Jose Caceres. He's the only guy in the world to have defeated Kamaru Usman in mixed martial arts. I think the highest he made it was World Series of Fighting on a Gaethje card. He lost to Anderson Mello. But MMA math, he has a loss to Colby Covington and he beat Kamaru Usman. So who's really the welterweight champ?
You can get even better than that. He lost to Nico Price. So
no
Nico
way,
Price is the welterweight champ. Yeah. In Fight Time 30.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
So outside, if this was a Jose Caceres fight, we lay off. But this is a Leon Rocky Edwards fight, so it's a little different. But yeah, I mean, Dan, overall, you think you can lay Kamaru 360 or just a parlay at or in the distance? I mean, where are we here? Nothing?
I'm not going to get cute with any kind of in the distance or whatever prop that is that. Like you said, I'm comfortable in the parlays. If I'm adding it, it's not like if I'm adding it straight, it's not a huge banger. It's like a 1-2 unit. I expect him to win this fight the majority of the time, in a hefty majority of the time. And for that reason, I think there could be value in the 360, but I'm not really running to my book to place it.
I could not agree more. Okay. So all I'll close this up with is follow the socials, guys. Everything is at Ankle Pick Pod. You can find us everywhere. That is social. And the content's been on point. Danny's been hitting the YouTube. I've been on the TikTok flow. Everything's looking good. Anything to add, gents, before we close it?
Be one of the first investors in TikTok, in the Ankle Pick Pod TikTok, because it's a rocket ship.
Heck yeah. We're going to get some giveaways going, all that good stuff. Can I do it?
Do it.
Porra!